and welcome. I'm your host, Muskan. Thank you for taking the time to join us as we talk about navigating the future of intelligent document processing through generative AI. You'll leave with some key insights on how Gen AI takes IDP to the next level with adaptive skills, ease of use, and quick deployments. And to make sure we are helping you as best as we can, we have a questions tab where you can submit all your questions and thoughts, which appears at the bottom of your screen. We'll answer them at the end of the session. All lines are on mute by the default settings of the webinar. There will be a survey form appearing at the end of the webinar to collect your feedback on how we can make our discussions better for you in the future. Also, don't worry about taking notes. We will be sending the session recording and deck via email within a day's time. So without further ado, let me introduce you to our speaker, Marla, Director Intelligent Automation. She has been a seasoned IT professional with over 25 years of experience in technology and software, and has worked with some of the largest global companies in orchestrating and supporting technology innovation and automation. We also have with us Hemraj, VP of Product Engineering at Datamatics, who will be helping you with the questions at the end of the webinar, along with Marla. Hemraj has over 30 years of experience in building scalable and resilient systems that leads to development of intelligent automation with low or no code platforms at Datamatics. So let's get started. Over to you, Marla.
Thank you, Muskan, for that wonderful introduction. It's nice to see everybody on the webinar, and I wanted to just kind of walk through the agenda really quick before we get started, and then we'll jump in. We'll start with some analyst thoughts and timelines around generative AI. We'll talk a little bit about just generally generative AI's impact on intelligent document processing. We'll focus a little bit on how Datamatics has infused generative AI into our particular IDP solution, so that you can look at, as you're looking at evaluating IDP solutions out there, you can get an idea of the things that you need to look for as you look for a leading edge partner to join you in this generative AI journey. And then just a little bit about our experience. So just jumping in, I wanted to start on the analyst side. We found this to be a very interesting comment that by 2026, more than 80% of enterprises will have production environments of generative AI. This is general, this is not specific to IDP, but I thought the production piece was interesting because to get production in 2026, you need to be evaluating generative AI now. You need to be putting in your pilot and your POC systems by next year so that you can move to that production side and to join that 80%. So interestingly enough, looking at Gartner putting out their emerging tech for hyperautomation report back in March. So March, generative AI was available, but it hadn't really become the rampant game changer in the industry yet in the March timeframe. And so Gartner, looking at emerging tech specifically for hyperautomation, tagged IDP as one of the very near-term technologies that everyone needs to be looking at in order to achieve those hyperautomation goals around increasing customer satisfaction, knowing more about your suppliers, your employees, your customers, reducing your costs, increasing your efficiencies, and really looking at, in your digital transformation landscape, looking at IDP as a platform and something you would want to move forward with on a more immediate basis, and then looking at Gen AI on top of that, makes that emerging tech that much more significant in hyperautomation. So if we look briefly through the evolution of document processing, no judgment, because I know there's a lot of people that are still in this pink zone down here on the lower left, where for a lot of reasons, and we'll talk about a few of those when we get to OCR, you're still doing manual entry of your complex documents, right? Whether it's outsourced or whether you're doing it onshore or offshore, there's still a lot of things that go into extracting data from documents, and manually has been the play for large corporations for decades, obviously. But then we move into OCR. And obviously, OCR was an evolution in document extraction. Issues around OCR with their 45 to 55% extraction rates, with their template-based approach, because that's really the only way that OCR worked. You have companies that, I mean, we have customers that have anywhere from 800 vendors to 10,000 vendors. And there's no way that a templated approach is going to work, right? So in that case, it is a pink zone in order for them to accomplish what they need to accomplish. So looking at OCR, though also a game changer when it was introduced, wasn't necessarily a viable option for everyone. So then we move into the IDP area. So then we've introduced artificial intelligence and machine learning into document extraction. Huge difference, really allowed companies that had the high variety of documents, the high variety of formats to enter that auto extraction game and automate that piece of their processes. The issue is not all IDP solutions are the same, right? So we have IDP solutions that are still somewhat template based. We have IDP solutions that still rely heavily on OCR. Datamatics has a pure play IAML, artificial intelligence, machine learning extraction solution. And so our customers are able to take advantage of the format agnostic, document variety capabilities of a true IDP solution. But then you look at each one of these squares, each one of these evolutionary steps, and it takes 50 years for OCR to get to IDP. It takes 20 years for IDP. And then you look at generative AI that's really jumped in and completely changed the game. And so we're going to talk about the generative AI side today, and moving that focus up the evolutionary scale. Now, what you'll also find today is that much like OCR and manual processing kind of worked together, you'll also see the importance of having an IDP platform and solution when you move into the generative AI-powered IDP evolutionary scale. So hopefully this gives you a little background on where documents are. So in generative AI, just across the board, across industries, across use cases, massive disruption, right? Found out that the ChatGPT, the OpenAI consumer application, is the #1 fastest growing consumer application in history. TikTok, Threads, Twitter, they all grew very fast. They all have mass consumption, but from a speed to market, generative AI is the fastest in history. So if you look at, not only is it a massive disruption based upon the technology that it offers, but just the speed at which people are using it. And as we know, when you look at the iPhone and you look at all of the things that consumers look at, it eventually leaks into what people expect from their corporate applications. So we just look at that disruptive capabilities just from an adoption standpoint. Copilot, the ability to create code, the ability to debug, the ability, in our case for IDP, to create ontologies. Looking at what Copilot can do for an organization just from a development perspective, if you can save 50 to 60% of a developer's time, then you've made a major change in your organization and how your projects run. And then we look at the decentralized piece, right? We started out with citizen developers, right? And so your citizen developer, your business, if they had someone that knew the application and they had someone that was semi-trained on how it worked, then you could have a citizen developer work on a low-code, no-code platform. What generative AI brings to the table is not only your citizen developer has now been pushed to the business user, right? So now, because of natural language and because I can just type in a prompt, I now have included the business user in my artificial intelligence infrastructure. And it just adds that much more capability and access to artificial intelligence. And then just the efficiency optimization, not only Copilot from an efficiency standpoint, but streamlining processes and decision-making and those types of things that generative AI brings to the table really dramatically increases, your efficiency of a process, of a development, of a project, those types of things. And we'll continue to see all of these things move in the direction as generative AI continues to grow and people start adopting and building on top of it. So this is generative AI in general, right? So now we look at the transformative impact it has on IDP specifically. So from a quick deployments perspective, you would expect Copilot to have a large impact on IDP, right? The ability for generative AI to help develop those document definitions faster and quicker than even low-code, no-code platforms like Datamatics has today, and really utilizing those already established fundamentals. Adaptive skills, easy to use, and human empowerment, they all are collectively similar in that I've got my my natural language capabilities. So now, again, not just a citizen developer, but your business user, right? I know more about my business than IT does. And so let me use those skills and adapt to my environment and utilize artificial intelligence to help me be more impactful when I'm querying a document, when I'm creating a document, those types of things. Put those in my hands. And that goes to ease of use when you look at the multi-language capabilities, not only in help from a generative AI perspective and just being able to ask a question and get the help back from a natural language perspective, but now I can get it back and ask it in my own language. I can do that on a document. I can do that in help. And really just the ability from a global company and a global perspective to be able to tap into those Gen AI multilingual capabilities. So now we look at data agility. So everybody has little nuggets of data that are being held captive in your documents, right? I've got contextual data. I've got data that's comparative data. I've got data that that just moves a document from standard extraction to really a interactive, and the ability to pull out those data elements that I haven't been able to pull out from an automation perspective before, and put those into my downstream systems, whether it's dashboarding or whether it's other AI models. Again, going back to what Gartner said, getting to know my customer better, getting to know my suppliers better, getting to know my employees better, and using your documents to be able to do that, to surface that information. And then continuous improvement, right? We are celebrating the anniversary this month of the release of ChatGPT. And I know it's, seems like a long time ago, but again, it didn't really surface into the game-changing concept that we're talking about now. But we're already on version 4 of OpenAI, right? So looking at the continuous improvement that Gen AI has, and it is going to drag IDP. It's going to pull IDP along with that continuous improvement. And we'll just continue to move up that evolutionary scale that we talked about before at a very, very rapid pace. So when you look at those pilot projects, right? Looking back at the Gartner statement of having a production environment by 2026. I personally would highly recommend looking at IDP if you're looking for a pilot project for generative AI, because it gives you an already proven platform that you can just enable with generative AI. So I'll go through a few of the topics that, regardless of whether you're looking at a Datamatics IDP platform or you're looking at another IDP platform, or you're looking to develop your own in-house IDP platform using generative AI, here's some of the things you're going to need to be able to enable a corporate deployment, right? Regardless of your size. So we'll talk about security. Azure is making great strides in making OpenAI as secure as it possibly can, but they're still public LLMs, right? They're only going to be so secure. So you really look at your IDP platform to add that initial layer of security in your process. So role-based security, right? What can my admin do? What can my business users do? Looking at all of those roles on a solution, looking at projects, right? I've got multiple projects going on. I've got my finance team using my IDP platform. I've got my human resources team using my IDP platform. I've got supply chain using it. And how do you create those divisions and that security across those document types? And for those of you that are in healthcare or banking and you have PII data and you have PHI data, just having a platform that can mask or redact information that's needed. Those are the kind of things that an IDP platform does from a security perspective. Now we look at enterprise dashboards, right? I need to know how efficient my process is. I need to know how long it takes for a document to be processed. I need to know from an accuracy perspective, how accurate are my documents being extracted. I need to know my employees, right? The ones that are doing the human in the loop, and we'll mention that in just a few seconds. But, I want to be able to get an overall enterprise view of my document landscape and what's happening to my documents, and being able to track those KPIs that I need to have for not only ongoing, needs around how to deploy it and where to deploy it next, but just making sure that my ROI is being met and those types of things. Then we move to OCR. You think OCR, that was back on that evolutionary scale. That was pretty far down there, but there are always going to be file types that will need some sort of OCR. We all have phones, right? I take a picture of a document with my phone, I save it as a PDF, and I send it to you. Not a PDF, still an image. Right? So still going to need a technology to extract that data because it's an image. And what you really need is a platform that has OCR technology. Like in TrueCap, we have OCR convergence. We can take multiple OCR engines, we can converge them together. Using AI, we can give you the best answer to that. So you really want to look at your IDP platform that you're looking at and how well that OCR piece works for those images and those other various file types that are coming in. That is not a component of generative AI. And so, looking at your IDP platform to be able to perform that service. Then we get to audit logging and process transparency. And that goes a little bit back to the enterprise dashboards, but really from an audit perspective, I want to know who touched my document. I want to know what they did to it. I want to know what change they made to it. I want to know why they made that change. I want to know how productive my employees are. I want to know how productive my solution is. And so I want it to be completely transparent through the entire process of where did this information come from on the document? I've got a 50-page document. Where did this information come from? I need to have a solution that can point back to that. So when we look at process transparency, we really need an IDP platform to do that. The manual requirements, the inbuilt workflows, I was talking about the HITL, the human in the loop piece. As much as we'd like to say, oh yeah, we'll give you 100%, no problem. Near 100%, that's a possibility, but you're always going to have documents that the dog ate, or documents that, we have a customer that is in the world of logistics and trucking, and they do a lot of documents that come in from their drivers. Maybe the lighting's not great in the truck. It's coming from a phone. You'll always have those types of documents that you're going to need someone to look at, right? You have to have that intuitive workflow and make that easy to do for your customer or for your employees. And then we come to splitting documents. Generative AI is great at classifying documents. Absolutely. Gen AI can tell you the difference between an invoice and a purchase order, a health claim, and a medical record. That's not a problem. The issue comes in where your IDP platform comes in is when you have an invoice, a bill of lading, and a freight document that come in one PDF. Maybe the bill of lading is an image, and the freight document's a PDF, and the invoice is a PDF, right? So you need to have that platform piece that can split those out and then extract those and then classify those and then put them through the artificial intelligence models. So these were just a few things that, as you look to evaluate IDP platforms or as you look to create IDP platforms of your own using generative AI, need to kind of look at these types of capabilities and why you need a platform that that fuses those two together. So just kind of to level set, Datamatics has an intelligent automation platform. It includes TrueBot, which is RPA, TrueCap, which is IDP, and TrueBI, which is business intelligence. We're just going to be talking about TrueCap today, or IDP today, but TrueBot, we will have an upcoming webinar. I'll have a QR code at the end that we're going to be talking about the same thing around RPA. But just to note that Datamatics has infused and enabled generative AI across all three of these components of our intelligent automation platform. So now we're going to look at specifically about TrueCap, but it's also things that you need to look at regardless of the IDP solution that you're looking at. We happen to have these in TrueCap because we think these are game-changing capabilities, and they're capabilities that will help our customers leverage generative AI moving into the future. So we're just going to go clockwise and start at the top. So we'll start with training on private data. So right now, LLMs, they're public, right? Public LLMs, and that's where we're getting our information from. What we'll see very soon is we're going to see companies start creating their own LLMs. They're going to be using their own private data to run generative AI queries against and ad hoc analytics against. Datamatics happens to do a lot of activity in the credit monitoring and credit environment, and we do have our own private LLMs in that area where we run generative AI on. So we'll see more of that happening as generative AI becomes more commonplace in organizations. And you want to be able to have a platform. We call it bring your own model, BYOM, but you're going to want a platform that allows companies to create their own generative AI models or just AI models in general. And I would say plug and play. Hemraj might want me to be a little more specific about that, but that you can use all of the great things about TrueCap. You can use all those great things about security and human in the loop and KPIs and use those across your own private models. Next is the inline data querying and analytics, right? Again, elevating those documents from just a capture document to an interactive document, capturing those data elements, contextual data elements, comparative data elements, and being able to do that across documents and being able to do that within a single document and really elevating that data extraction and getting those downstream data nuggets. So next, we look at cost optimization. If many of you have already looked at generative AI, have already started pilots or POCs, there are a lot of hidden costs in generative AI. OpenAI, ChatGPT, Google's, AWS's, whoever's you're using, there are costs based upon how many words I throw up into generative AI. There are cost implications on what they send back. So prompt engineering becomes a critical piece of being able to get exactly the response that you want so that you can control those costs. Looking at a platform like TrueCap that has an already established AI ML extraction component to it, which is the base of our platform, and being able to use those models to extract as much data as you possibly can from your complex documents at a much lower cost, and then using those generative AI tokens where you really are looking at ad hoc queries and you're really looking at putting generative AI queries into a document from a model perspective. And so you really need to be working with a company that understands those cost models and can really partner with you to make sure that you're getting that cost optimization that you can. So we look into data enrichment. That goes back to, again, extracting those nuggets of information and really looking at ways that I can use my documents. For example, TrueCap has a component called TrueDoc where we can take multiple documents, for example, across multiple years and do comparative analysis, right? I've got 5 years of statements, or I've got 5 years of contracts from a vendor, and I want to know something interesting across 5 years, rather than, having someone pull them and take a look at them and go through all of the pages of them. I can load those into what we're calling TrueDocs under the TrueCap umbrella, and I can do some analysis on those. So there are so many ways that generative AI can enrich data across documents on a single document, and really working with a partner that can help you do all of those things. So we look at generative AI for a quick addition of new resources, right? Audio, video. That is one of the things that generative AI is very good at. We want to make sure that we capitalize on those types of new elements as they come out. So synthetic data and document generation. When we look at the ability to quick deployments, right? Back on that previous slide where we talked about the ability to quickly deploy a project, quickly deploy a group of documents for your supply chain or for health claims or anything like that. When you look at generating samples, for those of you that have done that, it's a task, right? You've got to go back, you've got to pull samples, you've got to look at what you're pulling, then you deliver them, and then, it helps train the models. Whereas with generative AI, if I can synthetically generate sample documents, I can generate sample data, that helps in that quicker deployment and really speeds up your time to value on your projects. So on the complex validations using business prompts, we talked a lot about the natural language piece and really using generative AI from a natural language perspective for your business users to be empowered to ask those questions and do those ad hoc queries. So really a wonderful opportunity for IT and business to work together and offload some of those types of data queries to the business user that knows the business. We look at the public LLMs, and one of the things that we're seeing is that other companies and other technology companies are coming up with industry specific LLMs. It's gonna be wonderful, and it's going to be game changing. When I've got an industry specific LLM, I can better target my prompts. I can really capitalize on the data that's out there while still really being focused on my cost optimization, and really looking at partnering with a company that understands all of that and can quickly bring in those industry-specific LLMs, a company that has a platform like TrueCap that's designed fundamentally to bring your own model, where you can take advantage of those new components that people are going to be able to come up with, and taking advantage of really the technology stacks that are out there. We also look at data fusion and convergence. So I mentioned OCR convergence, right? So I mentioned the fact that TrueCap already takes multiple OCR engines and it converges those results and responses, and then uses AI to deliver the best result. We'll be doing the same thing with model convergence. So we'll be doing the same thing across multiple models. So you can use TrueCap's inherent models, you can use Gen AI models, you can use models that are built from other parts of your company, and fuse those together, and then let the platform give you the best result, what you're looking for. So really an exciting time for, at least for us, it's a very exciting time for IDP, very exciting time for TrueCap. And looking to continue on that road, the Gen AI journey. So just very briefly, looking at auto classification, creation, rules, smart selection, all of those have to do with Copilot, and all of those have to do with that quick deployment and that speed to value. And then, the multilingual support from a global perspective, and being able to leverage all of your global resources from an IDP perspective, leveraging those public LLMs, especially as new ones come along. And then, the analytics and the ad hoc queries and those types of things. So really leveraging that platform along with generative AI. So I have a quick demonstration of what we consider an ad hoc query, as well as what we would consider standard generative AI queries within a document. So here is just an agreement. Along the left-hand side, you see that we have standard generative AI queries that are built into the model. So you don't always have to enter the query. You can have some queries that every time a document goes through, I want these generative AI queries to be a part of my output. And so we have just loaded up here on the left-hand side with several queries and several questions that that are standard on this document that I want pulled out every time. But I also have the ability to click on that light bulb and put in a ad hoc query. So here I'm looking at, what is the liabilities for Datamatics on this document. So I go out to OpenAI in our case, and I look at, okay, here's the result. This is what's been brought back. Now this question becomes a part of the output, and you're starting to get those data nuggets that we talked about that had previously been hidden within a document that someone might have to go visually look at to extract or to answer questions or anything like that may come up. So we're really looking at this example of not only the standard queries, but the ad hoc queries for generative AI. So we want to look at why Datamatics, right? Why TrueCap? We are so excited about generative AI, not because of what it can do for us, but what it can do for our customers. So if you look at the vastness of our customer base, invoices, claims, insurance documents, banking documents, bills of lading for logistics, if you look at our customer base and the breadth of the customers that we serve, this is why we're excited about generative AI. We're excited because it's something that we will be able to bring to our customers to allow them to leverage new technologies. Just a couple of things on some of the analysts and what they're looking at and what they're seeing around TrueCap, around IDP, and around our intelligent automation solution. So hopefully this has been informative for everyone, and certainly look forward to your feedback. Don't forget to put questions into the Q&A session. Himraj and I will be available to answer those questions following this webinar as we kind of wrap up. So I wanted to make sure that I had something on the screen, a QR code that if you were interested in the upcoming RPA, kind of the same type of view of generative AI and how it's impacting RPA. He'll be doing that on Wednesday, December 6th. Feel free to take a look at this QR code to register. So I think we are ready to go to the questions. Muskan, do you have any questions on the list?
Yes. The first question we have is from David. He asks, you mentioned about auto creation of ontologies. So is there also a way for organizations to expedite the automation?
So yes, we have a marketplace of ready-made ontologies. They're out on our website. You can take a look at those as well. Just search marketplace, and you'll see that we have, and that list is going to continue to grow as we create new ontologies. But we do have a library or a marketplace of ready-made ontologies that our customers can use as a launching pad for quick deployments.
Sure. The next question we have is from John. How exactly does the Copilot help in improving productivity? Does it have multilingual support?
Himraj, you want to take that one?
Sure, Marla. So, from a TrueCap perspective, when you upload the document, if TrueCap has not already seen the document, we will kind of use generative AI in the background, identify and classify the document, understand what is the document about, identify the elements that should be captured from those documents, and then bring in the definition that is required to drive the extraction of these elements. In addition, if the document happens to be in a different language, we would also capture the context that is required to capture those elements without the user having to worry about defining or entering those contexts.
Thank you, Himraj.
The next question we have is, what OCR tool is TrueCap using?
Let me take that up, Marla. So, TrueCap Plus comes up with a bundled engine that we provide in case you want to do a very standard OCR. We also connect to all the leading providers, be it AWS, be it Azure, be it Google, be it Abby. So, in fact, it is this fact where Marla spoke about earlier. By connecting to these different engines, we also have the capability of doing the OCR convergence so that we could kind of optimize the quality of the output.
All right. The next question we have, which version of the LLMs do you leverage for your GenAI capabilities?
We are currently on OpenAI version 4. So we are keeping up with Himraj's team. His R&D team, his engineering team is doing a wonderful job of keeping up with the latest developments as they come out and become available through generative AI.
All right. The last question we have, do you offer a trial as well?
We do. We offer several different types of trials depending upon your document needs and your use cases. So if you wanted to, put information in the chat or reach out to me specifically on LinkedIn or Marla.Latvatalo at Datamatics.com, I'm happy to talk to you about trials, what they look like, and those types of things. But yes.
Great. I think those are the questions we had in the chat box. And that's all the time we have for today as well. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending the webinar. And we hope you found the session informative and insightful for all your projects. If you'd like more information, feel free to reach out via email at events@datamatics.com. And keep an eye for the recording and deck, which will be received, just in a day's time. That's tomorrow. We also hope to see you on the 6th of December for our next webinar, where we will discuss how RPA can be made accessible, powerful, and smarter with GenAI, which will be taken care by Hemraj. Lastly, we look forward to receive your feedback on the webinar in the survey form that appears right at the end of the session. Once again, thank you so much, everyone. See you soon at our next session. Bye for now. Thank you, Marla and Hemraj. Thank you, everyone.
Yes. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you all.